everybody, this is Tony.
And this is Paul, and we're coming at you from the Friends for Life podcast, where we discuss the ongoing lives and issues of people with developmental disabilities to spark positive change in the field.
And we have a lot of fun doing it. Okay, I'm done. It is too early in the morning for this.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Friends for Life podcast. Thank you for tuning back in. We're welcoming back Sarah. I think this is episode 5 or 6 where Sarah's been in the studio with us.
I feel like it's pretty...
Yeah, I never see the machete she has to her throat.
Yeah. She forces us to do this every time.
You will have me on the show.
Do my bidding.
It's actually a Jedi mind trick.
Okay. We just talked about Jedis in our last episode in detail.
We did.
All right.
I was schooled by one of our individuals on how lightsabers work. I had no concept. I thought they were magic, but they're fueled by crystals or something.
Yeah, come on.
But anyway, Sarah, so how have you been lately? You haven't been on for a while. I think the last episode was with you and Chris were in here, and we were talking about wages, which was like forever ago.
Yeah, so that was like one of the serious ones, but then I've done like the Hot Wings one after that.
Hot Wing Challenge, yes.
Okay.
I forgot about those. You have your lovely daughter in here.
Yes, we're having a
sick day.
So obviously I'm taking her everywhere with me.
Yeah, of course. I was saying earlier,
good parent.
That's the best part of like the sick days. You just get to go around and do weird stuff all day. It's like a free adventure.
Yeah.
Where you feel like crap.
Sofa shopping. This is always what I wanted to do.
I'm gonna go get frozen zucchini because I feel too lazy to cut up fresh zucchini. And I'm also concerned that if I don't get the frozen zucchini, the zucchini could go bad in my fridge before I get to it. So I have a whole process of frozen vegetable shopping that is going to happen later today.
I like this.
So I'm really excited. But anyways.
Thank you for that. We were really interested in.
Things are going great.
Sure. Yeah.
No, we've had a lot of really good stuff happen. I've been able to get out on the road and do some trainings. I think I've done like 3 or 4 some already this year. I have a couple more booked. I have 2 booked for May, 1 booked for April. So I'm really excited about that, doing different trainings and talks about, the trauma of the system. And I'm doing a couple on effective communication, which I think I talked about on our New Year's special. Like I was really excited about that. So I'm really excited about that. So, yeah, I'm super pumped about that. RVI, we are expanding. We are opening a Wood County location, which is where I'll be going after this. And, yeah, just lots of good things in life. So
why don't can you give us a few pointers? Because Tony and I actually have been talking about communication a lot lately. What would be some good pointers on, like, effective communication? Because that's where everything falls apart.
Right.
Like, realistically, is when there's bad communication. That's when people start to feel left out and feelings get hurt, when it's usually, like, just someone didn't say something when they should have. So, like, how does that look? Like, I don't want to give away your whole, speech, but like, what can people do? What are some tips for effective communication?
Well, I think that it's really good to just start out with, if you ever hear me talk on any subject, I'll talk about having a common vision, right? So it's really important that you have a common vision. So especially like in our field, our common vision is going to be very person-centered, right? It's going to be for the person we support. We want them to live a full life. That's very basic. And to agree upon that when you go in, right? Like, hey, this is why we're here, for this purpose. And then I think if we can all agree upon that, Peter Block, he writes a book called Community, The Power of Belonging. And he just talks about community involvement and sometimes setting up rules for meetings like, hey, it's okay. You don't have to agree with everything. Hey, this, you don't have to be here. This is mandatory. We want you here because you want to be here. Those are the only 2 that I ever remember. There's like 5 of them. But, just stuff like that. And then I'm a firm believer that, a lot of times people think conflict is bad communication, but it's not, because any good relationship will have conflict at some point. And it's all about not being offended, being able to be open and willing, or to say, Paul, when you said this, Sarah, your emo haircut sucks.
I didn't say that.
That really hurt my feelings.
Why'd you hurt her feelings like that, Paul?
I know. But to be willing to have those conversations, and one of the best advice I ever got from one of my supervisors was be direct and kind. So I think that we lose ourselves a lot and we're all coming together, but we're on different pages. So if you can find some common ground, some common footing, a common vision, then that gives everyone a whole lot more to work with, and just being direct and taking the time to say, this is what you said and this is what I heard. Is that what you meant? So.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, that doesn't sound too complicated yet.
Yeah.
It very much is for a lot of
I
people,
know.
it seems like. Well, that's the thing, is a lot of people, I think being offended is a choice a lot of the time, because people take things out of context so that they can, like, in the culture we live in, it's all about, like, being upset about everything all the time, it feels like. So it's like, I think people need to understand that not everything everyone says is meant to be a slight at you. Like, you can take it that way, but I would say on average, 99% of the time, it's probably not. Would you agree with that? Like, people do say mean things occasionally, but that's like not the majority of the time. Like,
I agree, but I also think that, like, we're getting better on calling out things that affect, like, so when there's freedom to say, like, wow, that really offended me, then I could, you know how you're like, well, if I can say it, I'm going to say, you know, like, I'm going to say that this really offended me. But I do think people need to be more willing to say, like, hey, this is how you said this and this is how I interpreted it. And then, like, ask for some, I'm a big person, like I want to know, did you mean it in this way? Was it an accident? Because how can you learn and grow if we're always,
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because even this morning, on the time that we were recording this, we all woke up to see some news on a reaction that somebody had of physical aggression due to feelings being hurt. And
nice tie-in.
is it right?
Good.
And due to pride and all of those things. And it's like, if you look at the scenario, for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. And we kind of talk like this has always been Chris Rock's repertoire of jokes. It's always been about people. It's kind of cringy. It's kind of, you know, knock your socks off kind of humor. And you would expect someone in the same type of work, per se, to understand.
yeah.
But it shows that we are humans. We have our flaws. We can have hurt feelings. We can. I mean, there's been tons of times I tried to be as nice as I could to explain something to people, but they were still taken back behind the fact that they were wrong about something. And they took it quite, I don't know, personally, versus trying to really gauge what I'm saying and where the change can come. And shit, even myself, excuse me, I got babies here, goodness. But yeah, I think that's a real good way of putting life in perspective on how quick and how you react to things that can be, you know, probably sat down and thought about before you go slapping folks.
Well, and I think too, like a lot, like obviously that was a very emotional response, right? And people often respond out of emotions. Dr. Susan David, I'm sure I've mentioned her before, has a book called Emotional Agility. It's so good. And she has the quote, emotions are data, not directions, you know? And so our emotions are there for a reason, but we need to sit and we need to analyze them before we react.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you just made fun of my wife, who I love, who's going through, you know, this autoimmune disease and all this stuff. Like, it's not funny, but maybe I shouldn't jump up on stage and slap you on live TV.
Yeah. it's a thought.
You know, but.
Well, and I think that's very true in a lot of scenarios. Like, people confuse their emotions with, like, how the reality is.
Yes.
Like, they take their emotion as reality, whereas, like something that I like to say to myself is, like, how you're feeling isn't reality. It's just how you're feeling about it at this moment in time. Like, how many times have you... It's like, we all wake up some days and just feel like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't feel like doing anything. I'm burnt out. But, like, that's a feeling. And you know eventually, like, tomorrow, you'll be okay. So, like, the point I'm getting at is sometimes it's okay to, like, step back from that situation and just calm down and be like, I need a minute because, like, I'm getting upset or whatever. And then you can, like, logically think through it instead of lashing out. Because, like, that's what it is to be an adult, in my opinion. like controlling your emotions to the point where it's not like you like when you blow up in that in public, you look absurd every time. Nobody's ever like, that's a sane person. That person's doing well. Like that, you know what I mean? So like that's back to communication is so important. I think communication relies on the individual person. You know what I mean? Like it's my responsibility to control my emotion and communicate to other people, but they have no obligation to understand how you feel all the time. You know what I mean? Like that's where the communication levels the playing field for everyone.
And I think, though, that we can create certain, like going into meetings, like obviously just random communication with a person on the street is going to be a little different. But like in our field, we do a lot of meetings with a lot of people and we're all in this feeling field, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy for things to just get emotional because you're like, I'm trying to help this person, you know, like you feel it. There are people that I've had on my caseload or I've supported where like literally I'm like, I am the only person fighting for this person to have their life, you know, and that's not true, but that's how I felt because I was very emotionally involved in it. So when you work in a field that has so many, like we're all people who want to, you know, see justice, see equality for people with disabilities, help them have a good life, support them in any way. So it's very easy to get those heated emotions, and it's very easy to be controlled by those. But I think just taking a step back, but also I've emailed people and said, I feel this way to your action. And then I'll add, I recognize this is just a feeling, but can we have a conversation about it? So,
one of the first things that I've that it takes me back to is when you go and you get professional counseling, especially if you're doing any kind of therapy, couples therapy and stuff. The first thing they're going to tell you is do not use each other's feelings against you. You know, you have to change the statements that you make. Instead of, if someone says to you, well, Sarah, you're making me feel sad. Like, are you really able to say, no, I'm not. I'm not making you feel sad. Like, that's not.
You make yourself feel sad.
Yeah.
That would be my response.
Yes.
But I mean, you have to take into account of someone saying those kind of things. Like, you know what? I'm sorry if I did offend you or make you feel sad in any type of way. Let's discuss it from there. What part of what I said made you feel sad? And then you peel back the layers and try to get to the core of the problem.
Well, that's even like children. I can't tell you, Mom, you're mean to me.
Oh.
Well, I'm sorry you think that, but let's talk about that. Yeah.
Oh man, my youngest, he has this thing now. It's, Mom, Dad, you're a liar. Like, what? You said we were going to get ice cream last night. Well, we got slushies instead. But you said we were going to get ice cream. You're a liar.
Does that sound familiar?
Like, I'm sorry, kid.
She's like, I would never do that.
Never.
My brothers and sisters, though, absolutely.
Are they the bad ones?
No. Yeah. She's like,
That's a
look,
yes.
you're not going to incriminate me on this show.
I'll speak for you. It's always their fault. Yes. But, that brings me to another point. Tony sent me a text last night at 11 o'clock. No, I'm just kidding.
It was pretty late.
But there was a news article that came out, I believe it was 13 ABC or whatever. Some of the local channels around here posted about the wage thing with, DSPs and stuff and home aides and all this, which I feel like it's one of the very few times that disabilities have gotten any local attention, like in anything. Basically, the last time I heard anything about disabilities in the news locally was when the mayor announced that whole initiative, which I haven't really heard much about lately. But, they're still putting attention on the disability field, so we might as well take advantage of that. So the wage thing, if people have read the article or watched the news story, whatever, we've been talking about this for 2 years.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. We've kind of beaten the dead horse, but I mean, is there any updates on how that's going? I know you guys are way more involved in the news and way more involved than me. You're in those meetings discussing this with the county boards and things like that. So are there any updates for the people out there on the living wage deal with DSPs and such?
Yeah, you want.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll bite it off first. What I have noticed is still, it's like, it's up in the air. There's no real, nothing being done right now. You know, everything is still, and I know this is how government works. So I'm not so, I guess I'm not so upset about it because I know things have to
You're
go through
controlling
the
your
process.
emotions?
Yes, I'm controlling my emotions.
Excellent. Excellent tie-in.
But we really have to do better. I think they said on there like the average wage now is roughly like $12.95.
Yeah, something like that.
And that is high in comparison to what the waivers actually pay out. And again, like you said, we'll be beating a dead horse if we keep mentioning it. But I am happy that there is still more light there. You know, it's being shown to people. The conversations are being had. But now we just got to get the government to cut the check.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So I did feel a little frustration, like on a federal level, because there was a lot about home and community-based services tied into the Build Back Better plan, and that just kind of fizzled. You know, sometimes I wonder if like too much in a bill. And then, you know, with other global politics happening right now, it just really took a back seat.
Yeah.
So there is a lot going on. 2022 started a 2-year budget for the state of Ohio, and we have already started like the different associations, the Ohio Association of County Boards, the Ohio Provider Resource Association. We've already started meeting with legislative officials, legislators, I guess is the word.
I like it.
But having these conversations, because it is like it's going to be a huge act. Like we're going to ask them to take care of the DD field, of the people. And so I've even been I've met with a county board and an Ohio Association of County Boards representative and different reps for the area. So I've been able to do that lately. And, you know, it's one of those things that there's actual statistics and facts. And I think they're putting together like a worksheet. Like you can either support the DD field or you're going to spend twice as much money on your prison system, on your psychiatric system, on your home, you know, like hospital systems, because if there's no one to support people with developmental disabilities, they're going to bleed into all these other systems.
Places, right.
So, and that's not good for anyone. That's not good for them. That's not good for the system. We know very well, like, you know, there's a huge issue with the prisons being overpopulated with people with disabilities and mental health challenges, you know? So there's a lot of stuff going on. I was recently in a meeting, they were talking like over the next few years, and I just like literally though was like, well, what about now?
Yeah.
I wake up, you know, I run this agency, this is what we do, and I wake up like with anxiety every day. I think about the stuff that people ask direct support professionals to do for $11 an hour, pass a medication, you know, give someone food through a G-tube, you know, give insulin, give shots, all these things. And then the other big news story was that nurse that made a mistake in medication and was convicted of criminal charges.
Yep.
And I just, you know, I don't know the nuances of that case, so I won't pretend to, but that is my biggest fear right now for people who are DSPs and in the DD field is like, if you're working 80 hours a week and you make a mistake because someone has to be here to support these very, you know, complex people who maybe need a lot of support, then do you go to jail if you mess up? Like $11 an hour isn't enough to cut it.
Right.
You know, like
That's
we
not
have
even
to
gonna
do
be
more.
able to take care of your attorney fees.
Right. So I think that there's a lot of really good conversation. I think there's a lot of really good ideas out there of the now and how we can support people now. And yeah, I hope that we can reach that point where people are paid a wage of worth what they do.
Now, I think this is where things scare me. Again, we're in the back of all of these things. All of this stuff is happening already. We were already behind.
Yeah.
You know, it's scary on that. I mean, basically, people were making the same $9.50 at a
Years.
For years upon years
and years.
and it's crazy that it had to take a pandemic to create the change. But this is the part that really it frightens me the most, is you're starting to get people not in the field anymore. And they're finding new professions that pay more. They're finding new professions that they're respected more. And although the culture is slowly changing in this field, it's not as quick as we would need it to be. But I see this as being a huge problem. I just was reading inflation, and they're trying to get it to, I think we're roughly at 4%. They're trying to get it to slow at 5%. The Fed just put on hikes for interest rates, so that should slow down some of the borrowing. Yep, that's a word. Some of the lending. There we go. Yeah. So everyone's not in this financial hellhole in a sense, but our field of work is still suffering from it.
Absolutely.
And it's going to continue suffering from it unless there is a major switch and change. Like, I'm almost thinking, now this might be a little radical, but I just think DODD and, statewide, any of these department heads, they should just take care of DSP wages, period.
Okay.
And then again, this might be a radical thought, but then the reimbursement rates will come to the agency through the records and stuff that they keep. You see where I'm going with this? So
Yeah.
It puts...
Could you explain that first part a little better?
Okay.
Like what you said about the wages to come from DOD directly.
Yes. So it'll be a DSP. Once they're hired in at a respectable company, they will get their direct funding strictly from DOD.
Okay.
So every hour that they work will come straight from them. Now, the agency that takes on that person and they're keeping them trained, they're keeping all of their records, they're doing everything that we do currently.
Yeah.
They will get a different reimbursement through the company on how many, or through DODD, for how many individuals they serve, for how many staff that they provide clients for, so on and so forth. Now, again, people, please don't write me or yelling at me. This was just a thought. It was not anything I sat down and crunched all the numbers on. But I kind of think that a lot of people above us aren't listening because they don't have to deal with what we deal with. Yeah. They don't have to see and hear the mother of two who can't come to work because gas prices are too high, but also she can't even stay past 12 because of her childcare situation. And both of those, I'm sorry, are money problems.
Yeah.
Those are not, maybe a family dynamic situation, but no, there's some things that just it's going to cost cash.
Well, I read something the other day that said something like currently, like even if you make up to $35,000 a year, it's still basically with like how inflation and stuff is, it's basically like living in a poverty wage at this point in time, which like that used to, when I was young, like a kid, I thought 35,000 or even a teenager, I'd be like, that's so much money. And that was 10, 15 years ago. And now it's like, if I made 35,000, I would be like freaking out. I wouldn't even know what to do. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I don't even live a complex lifestyle. I pretty bare bones. Like, I'm pretty chill.
You live off the earth.
Yeah. And I think like it is so, like, you just don't think of those little things. And so like right now we have an entire population of people, right, that we have caused because of reimbursement rates, because of lack of respect, we've caused to live in poverty. And I don't think people fully realize how much of a pay bump you need to get to get off the system. Like, I'm always really open. Like, I was an SSA. I worked for the county. I still qualified for all government benefits. Well, partly because I had 500 children, but like, as a person in their mid 30s, the pay increase that it took me, and insurance is terrible. Like, I had better insurance at the county when I also had a backup of Medicaid, you know, like now it's like you pay all this stuff out of pocket. And so the actual financial bump that it takes to get you out of the system and to not be like pinching dollars still is ridiculous.
Well, the pay hike you're talking about isn't the difference between living and then living with a bunch of luxuries. This is like the pay hike you're talking about is like, am I choosing between gas or food, or am I able to get gas and food?
Right.
Like, that's the difference of the pay. You're not talking like, oh, well, Johnny out here with no college degree isn't going to go buy a $500,000 home over a few dollar an hour pay. Like, they're going to be like, able to afford to fix their car.
Yes.
Well,
or maybe
like all
like
of these things. Like the median house now is like over $280,000 to $300,000. Like,
that's just a normal house.
Yeah,
like
I literally do
house.
not know that I will ever be a homeowner. Like, at the rate I'm going.
And you're the CEO of a company. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if I will ever be able to be a homeowner.
they're talking about
know?
us as millennials too, with stuff like that, you know, because we weren't given those same kind of opportunities to be able to have a one person working home. And I mean, easy credit accessibility. Like, now you got, I think it's roughly over 700 you have to have just to qualify even for a mortgage. And they're probably going to increase that very much so.
Yeah. So it's all tied together. It's all so complicated, but it is it's wrong, right? On so many levels.
Well, there's a quote here. I wasn't just checking Facebook. I've been waiting to read this quote on my phone. It says, this is from the article that we originally were talking about, and I want your guys' both reactions on this, and then we'll wrap it up there in a minute. It says, this is a quote from, I believe, one of the parents or something. It says, I think the home care industry has become so full of red tape and regulations that there's not that one-on-one interaction anymore, so you can't develop a relationship. So what do you guys think about that? Because that's kind of the one quote from the article, so I'll read it again. I think the home care industry has become so full of red tape and regulations that there's not that one-on-one interaction anymore, so you can't develop a relationship.
I don't really, I mean, yes, in some cases, definitely. But the red tape is actually, I believe, I personally think, and you tell me, Sarah, I think they're starting to peel it off because they're seeing the ramifications of it. You know, there's so much. One of the new things that I've been talking about now for new agency providers, you know, they have to have that $10,000 of credit, a credit line of credit for their company. Most people going through the route of starting something like that, they don't have the best credit. I mean, my credit score, I mean, it was decent when we started, but I don't know if I would have qualified to have a $10,000 line of credit just in the very beginning. I mean, I barely had a client. So those are the kind of things that I do see some red tape, but I also know, I see the reason why that is. You know, I don't know how to say this without sounding kind of mean, but you got so many people who want to just start agencies and stuff when we still need more workers. Like, we need more, like, so you're telling me you about to start a whole nother company when we're short at least 30 staff that we could use. You're short roughly 20 staff you could use. Like, come on, there is a place that you can help somewhere already until we get to the area that we can actually do this the right way. And you know, don't let me get to the part of, like, are you really doing this for you? Or are you just doing it for the money again? Like, because if it's about the money, yes, you're going to have to be an owner to really see the significant financial increase. But you're also going to have to take care of all of the headaches that come with that.
Right.
Who said it best? More money?
Phil Collins.
No, I was going to say Biggie Smalls, man.
Oh, okay.
Notorious B.I.G.
But
I do think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I do agree. I think they're starting to, like, maybe roll back, but compliance is a huge issue. Number one, the administrative cost of having, like, we have a compliance director who looks at these things. Like, there's so much compliance that goes into this. And I am not saying it should not be regulated. I am not saying that at all. Like, there need to be protections for people with disabilities. But the whole process of, you know, the onboarding, going through all this training, like, you lose people before they can even develop a relationship. And I think that's where it comes in.
That makes sense.
If you have to come in and do all these things, it's really hard to develop a good relationship, and you're losing people before that can happen. Also, again, we're asking people to do so many things.
100 things.
100 things for $10, $11, $12 an hour. And it is a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. And so I think there has to be a way to provide good services and also have that, you know, have some of that compliance piece taken back. Or at least, you know, there's been talk about, like, if you're a provider in good standing, maybe you get an abbreviated review opposed to, you know, like, obviously there are
that idea.
We've all seen. I choose to believe that if you're in this field, you're probably not in it for the money, right? Like, no one's getting super, super rich by just having a DD provider agency. But I think that there are people who maybe don't get into it for the right reasons. And there's always going to be those outliers or those bad providers. And so we do, I think, you know, and you're really good about this, you know, this is what your podcast and your philosophy really is providers supporting each other, you know? So I think, like, one, if you see a provider that's struggling and we can have that open communication, we have that good relationship. Hey, how can I help you? How can I support you? But then maybe that person gets a little more, and when I say compliance, like, we really have to get rid of the bureaucratic compliance-based policing that has happened in our system. And so for DODD, the county boards to come alongside and say, hey, you're really struggling with this. We've gotten this, you know, if no one's, like, in immediate harm, we see you're really struggling with this. What can we do to help you? Can we offer retraining? Can we come in? Like, what can we do? Opposed to, here's your citation, we'll take your plan of correction. Thank you, goodbye. So I think there has to be a change.
Is that, for, like, layman's terms, is that similar to, like, because every time there's red tape in a system, it usually boils down to the person you're talking to. Because, like, for instance, you can call or chat online to any business. You order an electronic thing. You say, you go to their website, the company that made it, and you said, hey, my electric thing broke. One guy working there in the call center is going to be like, oh, well, I need your receipt. Is it under warranty? Where did you buy it? I need the serial number to this. And then at the end of the day, they'll be like, we'll get back to you. They never get back to you. And then you go on the chat 5 minutes later, get a completely different person, like, hey, this is broken. And they'll be like, cool, we'll send you a new one. Like, is there a lot of that going on too? Because it's always just a person doing their job, and one person is, I'm by the book. Everything is, you have to do it. And then there's other people who are like, yeah, whatever, cool.
I think they probably have different standards, and I think that every person is a little different. But I think they probably teach the same thing across the board. And I think that certain parts of the department have different cultures, and that's something I struggle with DODD. Like, you meet one person and they have this culture, you meet the other person and they're like very, you know. And so I always kind of refer to them as the bickering parents. Like, they need to work it out, you know, because there's this part that's like person-centered planning, the rest is just paper. And then there's the other one that's like, oh, your paper sucks. Here's a citation, you know. So I just always feel like mom and dad need to get on the same page before the kids can. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all, again, this is where, you know, that at the end of the day, we got to sit down and we got to say, what is our common vision? What are we doing here? And we have to.
And it all boils down to where we started with communication. Oh my gosh, it's almost like principles and rules just all fall into the same place in every scenario. Oh my gosh. But anyway, that got really heavy. We were supposed to bring you in to talk about the new
It's supposed to be
direction.
a really light,
This was supposed
fun.
to be a fun morning, but it got heavy there. But that's okay.
That's what we like.
Because those things need to be talked about as well. But so, Tony, Sarah, we're doing this thing. Tony, I don't know who wants
you want me to tell? I'll
you
tell
go.
you.
You
tell.
go because you own the place.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
You know what you're talking about.
That's
One of
fair.
the most awesome things about today is we brought Sarah in so we can discuss her hosting the show outside of me and Paul's presence. She will have her own segment of the show, but she will also be hosting the Friends for Life podcast, asking all the weird things that I like to ask, but probably better because she's a little weirder than me. Probably. Just sometimes, though. But
Is that good
That's
or
a
bad?
that's a toss-up.
I
I'm
don't
not
know. It really depends on the day.
yeah, right. Is it a full moon or not? But we really are excited because while she will be holding down the fort here, Paul and I have a goal to visit 88 counties worth of DD. So we're going to start off in Ohio, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be riding in a cool RV. It will be a full podcast studio in there. So we're going to have some fun times, some awesome times. We're going to meet some new providers. We're going to meet some old providers. Hopefully we can talk to some directors in areas, especially people at DODD. So we're going to Columbus. We're going to see you in Cincinnati, Cleveland. You're going to think we're rock stars here, people.
Podcast
Woo-hoo!
World Tour.
Yeah, there we go. I like it.
Before Sarah chimes in here, anybody listening to this, if you have contact information or you want to be on the podcast for our world tour anywhere in Ohio, please let me know.
The
Reach
state
out
tour.
to us. Reach out to Tony. Reach out to me. You can literally message us on any social media platform. I will respond to you personally. But anyway, Sarah, so are you excited about this? You have some cool guests lined up. What's the plan here?
I'm working on it. I have a plan. I've started to reach out to people. I'm super pumped about it, and I'm also like really excited just for you guys to. I'm excited to take over the studio. No, I'm just
Yes.
kidding. I'm
All the coffee
excited
you
for
can
you to get out of the studio and no, it's gonna be great. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Super fun.
We didn't want to just spring a new random host on you and be like, what the heck is happening? But
I mean, I feel like I've really snuck in anyways, that they'd be like, oh, it's just Sarah again. And I'll be like, Tony and Paul never showed up, so here I am.
This is something that Tony and I talk about all the time as well in this podcast is like, you've earned your place on the show. Like you've been on the show a lot. You've like helped us find guests. You just
Informative.
you're
The
good
education that you get.
You know what you're talking about, which is more than Tony and I can say.
Yeah.
So like
I
it's
don't do
a great
research.
combo, and we're always saying like you don't just get to do this stuff like you earn your way into things. Like it's a natural progression. So yeah, we're excited. We will be hitting the road at some point here in the next few weeks, months,
Yes.
days, hours. I'm not sure, but we will. I have a lot of work to do to plan this out, and Tony's got a lot of work to do to plan this out. But it should be interesting because, as you all know, it's kind of hard to get things scheduled during this weird period we've been in for the last few years. So we're just taking to the road. We're going to force everyone's hand
Yeah.
into
I like
coming
it.
on our podcast.
You're going to see people leaving out with sunglasses and stuff trying to hide. Nope, we found you. Now, come on, get over in here.
One of my favorite quotes is, you can't make people love you. You can only stalk them, hope they panic, and give in. So I feel
All right.
I feel as though, one, I have accomplished that here.
Very well. Yeah. very much so.
And two, I feel like you will accomplish that out there.
I feel like the
love it.
correct quote is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But that works too.
I like the other one.
I mean,
I like the stalky one.
the creeper one.
Well, on that note, thank you, Sarah, for doing that. Thank you for coming in on this beautiful Monday morning, nice and early, even though it's like negative 50,000 degrees
So cold
outside.
out.
Yeah, it's
So
chilly.
Ohio third winter, I think, is what we're in right now.
Yeah, we
currently.
had full spring a couple
spring.
weeks ago, and now we're into third winter. So
All right. Well, we will see you guys soon, and don't be surprised when you start seeing Sarah pop up hosting the Little Friends for Life podcast here while Tony and I are on the road for a little bit. So thank you guys, and we'll be back next week with another guest.
Later.
bye.